You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Weird Science Marvel Comics podcast. As always, I'm here with my man, Matt. What up, Matt?
What up, Jim?
What up? And we have episode 36. That is legacy number 536. And we have a couple books that me and you are going to do. Not a ton came out this week. And then after me and you are done, we will be joined by Jason, who will be doing the Ultimate X-Men with me. But me and you have, the big books. I did have somebody who I didn't even realize what they were saying because I couldn't figure out what it was. But I ended up making a joke when me and you last week did the Deadpool.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, all you have to do is kind of, throw shade at us, make fun of us, and we'll review stuff. So then somebody used that as the joke of like, I think you're both bullshit, and now you have to review these, some books that he wanted reviewed. But one he said Doom, and I didn't know what he meant. I had no idea. Did you remember this book was coming out?
No idea. We looked at it yesterday and saw it.
Yeah. So I ended up, and I was looking, I thought, because I think the other book that he mentioned was like an indie book. So I thought it was, I'm looking, I'm like, then I get crazy ideas like, okay, they brought that Fallout back for a TV show. Did they have some Doom video game thing? I'm like, oh, and then I saw this was coming out, and I'm like, okay, that's what this is. And so we were going to review it anyway. It's probably the biggest book at Marvel this week in my mind because it's Hickman. You have Sanford and Greene on art, and it's this big. I mean, it feels like a big thing. And even when you think about it, it's like, ooh, this is like huge. I keep forgetting as well, not only just forgetting it was coming out this week, I kept forgetting, even as I was reading it again, that it's a one-shot. So in my mind, it's cool. It's something that kind of is neat to look at, but what is it for?
Yeah, it seemed you mentioned it like it should have been like the beginning of a world building thing.
Yeah,
like,
I thought this would be a really crazy thing of almost a reboot. Like you could have like what would be better? Galactus comes and he's going to wreck everything, but then rebuild it. But by the end, then I see this. Oh yeah, the end. I'm like, oh, it's one shot. Not that I think it felt like because I think people are going to like this, but I also think people are going to like it because it does feel big. But at the end, I just want to, besides maybe people say, well, I enjoyed while I was reading it. But to me, something this big, and it is pretty pricey too, the idea of what are we going to go from here, but kind of nothing. And for me and you, we read almost everything that comes out, not only just here at Marvel, but DC and, indie stuff like that.
Yeah.
A lot of times I kind of need something to have a little more oomph. I'm not just going to sit there and stare at the pictures and smile. It's my thing. And if you are like that, I think you can get some more enjoyment. And I didn't hate this. I think it's good. I think it's well done. I just, at the end, it was very confusing of, well, why? So we'll go. It just was very odd. It's hard to even, I said, I don't even know how we're going to talk about it. And I said that as the thing was ticking down when we were hitting the record because it's just weird. But
not only does it end, if you're reading digitally, especially, you're like, or even real life, you have 11 pages of art at the end. So it kind of even throws off your feeling of how much longer I have left.
And again, if you're somebody who loves, that never really does much for me. If you do that, I'd rather just save that for the trade, save that there, and maybe make it a little less so people can go. But I think they'll make some money off this. But it is Doom. Number one, giant-sized one shot. I don't get it. Sanford Greene and Jonathan Hickman, and you even said it's art, plot, and script for them. It seems like maybe the big purpose of this is to get Sanford Greene to do a lot of art and possibly even doing it maybe the old Marvel method. Maybe Sanford Greene had a bunch of the art done and, he sends it off to Hickman. He kind of gets the deal. I don't know. I have no idea, but it's Rachel Rosenberg and Sanford Greene on colors and VC's Joe Caramagna on letters. There's a lot of covers. I've seen some of them pretty cool. But what we're getting here is a future story. In the solicit, it says a near future, but I think they're just playing with that idea. And Val. And she is searching for pretty much a destroyed Doom, Dr. Doom. And she does end up finding him. I mean, she's in space. She's there trying to find this thing. She has Herbie, the AI, going. And by the end, if you do look, and you pointed it out to me, at the end when you have the sketches,
Yeah.
you have what appears to be telling you that Val herself is an AI. And at one point, Doom even says, how did you survive? Because here's the spoiler. Everybody's dead.
Except for
Everybody's
Doom.
destroyed except for Doom. And Doom probably should be dead, but he's just floating in space.
Somehow he's revived from like just basically death. I don't know.
And when you do this, if you're reading, like I said, we read a lot of the other things and whatnot. If you're reading just the recent Kneel Before Zod, very similar to Zod floating in space. They come and scoop him up. It happens a lot. But there is that play of, is Val real? Is she an AI? But again, does it... By the end, like, there's not really anything left to play with because it's over. But while you're reading it, it's kind of a neat little thing. At one point, it even looks like she's like particles and coming together. But
yeah, her body, I know it's the art style too, but her body's a little more elongated and like not really human as much, kind of.
Again, this could be, and maybe I'm just an old curmudgeon, but maybe the fun is the, hey, I wonder how we got here. And I wonder if Val is an AI. And did Val herself set up an AI with just one purpose to go find Doom and then goes finds it? Maybe you can play around with that. But when I'm reading it, I'm like, okay, this art's pretty good. It looks old school type deal, but looks really, really neat. Some people might not like the kind of unfinished play. Like it's kind of a little dirty the way that
it
the art is.
Like,
but I like it.
It gives me Daniel Warren Johnson vibes a little bit with how the art pulls together.
It would be pretty good to have this on Truth. There's a lot of like when Daniel Warren Johnson ended up leaving the at least the art so far from the Transformers, and people were like, "Oh my God, it's not going to be as good." And then it was, and now we even had Brian Otley in that universe. He did a great. Like everybody seems.
Yeah, I think Sanford Green could easily do Transformers.
Yeah, so that'd
like
be crazy. Yeah, when you see Galactus for like that big first time, he kind of does look exactly like that with that motion.
Yeah, all the motion stuff. Yeah. Kind of like a dirtier art style. It's cool.
Yeah, I like it though.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty cool. And so Val is collecting the body of Doom, brings him in, and is kind of talking to Herbie and herself and things. And then eventually Doom himself, who can't really like what happened, what went on. And I thought that at one point, see, again, I forgot it was a one shot, but even then I thought that the twist was going to be something about like, we were going to see that Johnny, Ben, and Reed were the heralds. I really thought there was something really bad. Or I don't know why or how this could ever be. For some reason, I thought that somehow Reed had defeated Galactus and became Galactus. I didn't know because Val really had that play of like, you don't want to know. I don't want to talk about my family, but it could be just because they're dead. But she's an AI.
Yeah, there was a lot of that. I don't want to talk about Dad, but we never really got to Dad.
No, and what we really get by the end is that she kind of, and Doom, once Doom comes, because he ends up, they bring him in and they kind of nurse him back to health. You don't really get a full time span of things, but when he does kind of wake up and you talk, the big shade at Reed is that he likes to figure things out. He likes to fix things. He waited too long.
Yeah, he waited too long.
Things were going wrong, and they were waiting. And Doom himself ended up, Dr. Doom went out to confront Galactus. He ended up wanting to take him down, and they start talking. It also reminded me almost at points of where we had Galactus in the Marvel Zombies. Remember when Galactus, and he was just going insane, and he had to feed because this ends up, the hunger was going. So in this, they even play like, my dad, everybody thought that Galactus is kind of a known entity. He has his MO, he has his way of doing things, but this was different and people weren't ready. And whole planet civilizations all were destroyed, and he headed to Earth, and we weren't ready
because the hunger never went away for whatever reason.
Yeah. So they, in my mind, even like Reed would be sitting there, like, okay, well, he just did that planet. Well, we're safer, but it wasn't, and they ended up getting taken. You have everybody, even Professor X, the helmet there. You got the Miles, Miss Marvel. People are probably happy. I was waiting to see is Paul there getting destroyed. I hope so. But yeah, you actually have some really cool pages again. Is this something where, okay, I want to draw all of the heroes in the whole Marvel universe because it kind of does, and it's kind of neat.
It is cool. I mean, it's fantastic. Some of the stuff it's put a lot of care into it for sure.
Yeah, and it's funny too because it's epic you end up having Alex Ross has his style. I think it's just as cool in this style as well. It doesn't seem, it's not that style. But
no, you got everybody on here, man. Howard the Duck's on here. It's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, you see Deadpool. I like when Deadpool's like just shaking his fist at the one deal. But yeah, it's really cool looking. And you do see, some characters, and they're just going to all get destroyed. Everybody lost. And yeah, there's Howard.
And then, but even before it got to that, then Doom put on that suit, that mecha suit, and tried to beat him up too, and lost.
Yeah, and he lost. And so the thing about Val, and even then, you have when Doom says, well, why didn't you go down and you didn't do this? But you do see her there. I mean, she's there with her family. And so what was it? And I think that when she kind of hints at the idea, I think you're 100% right. And it says in that, character sketch thing in AI, that she had already had set something up, probably gets activated when she dies. So she kind of says that I learned from you how to survive. And that's where Doom kind of looks at her and says, no, I endure, which is different because that kind of means you lived. And so with that, though, you have this going on. If it went on, we may have even found out later that it isn't even Val's AI, that it could even be Doom's. Doom may have set this up to save him. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that could have been, but whatever. I don't think we'll ever find out.
We might not, but it is one of those weird stories they could pick up from 5 years from now and just do a.
And again, now that we're talking about it, the things are interesting. I wish. Basically, what I'm saying is I wish that it continued. I wish this was like a 3-part or something like that.
It would have been a little better. Yeah, I agree. Even if it wasn't double-sided the first size, there's just 3 regular-size issues would have been good.
Yeah. And so everything got destroyed. And you see things going bad. And then Val saying that was 2 years ago. He left their planet a husk, an empty shell, a dead world where nothing would live again. That was 2 years ago. And I've been looking for you ever since. So Doom has been floating in space for 2 years. And she went and picked him up. So again, like I said, maybe this was something that activated with Doom, something along those lines. We'd have to see. And maybe we're completely wrong. But it does seem, like you said, in the back, it kind of points to it. But you have the deal where, again, and it just is like story time for most of us. Because then, what about the Celestials and what about the Cosmic Heroes? And then we just go and see them
He
fighting.
beats them all up. Yeah, you got Rocket Raccoon and Gamora.
And that's where, when I said Val says, and again, 2 years, maybe even pointing out that I don't know the lay of the land, but she still looks pretty young and says, you know me, Uncle, I was never seduced by short-term satisfaction or victory. I've always been interested in survival, just like you. And he says, no. Doom doesn't survive, he endures. And then we go and see, Beta Ray Bill and all them, like you said. And as that's going on, Val's also kind of making him like super soldier Doom, only because he's going to need that to put this new armor on that ends up having, cosmic. It's crazy.
He's the super soldier serum he takes, and then something else.
And it's grafted the blood of Celestial. Plasma. I mean, it's crazy. Again, to basically try to take down Galactus. This will be like the last bit. And with all that, even if it is Val, and even Doom, what do you do after this anyway?
Well, even the next page, it's you have the Cosmic Heroes, and then the next one's all his heralds. Even that crazy Ghost Rider's there, the Frank Castle version.
The Ghost Rider. Yep, you see them all there, and they're going to.
That's like the next level when they get defeated.
And the weird part of it is again, it looks pretty cool, but all that's kind of in the background. Like, we're not really even dealing with that. We're just seeing what happened and how they went down to up the ante of what is happening to Doom, that he needs to get this armor on. And she says the armor is a composite of Uru and Vibranium, one for strength, one durability, a conduit for the 3 cosmic cubes. And they're going all out. This is the whole deal. I wanted Doom to be like, can you just find me the Infinity Gauntlet? I'll just snap this guy out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
But there you are. You have that, and now he's like, I am pleased. Like, Doom loves it. He thinks it's the greatest thing. And yeah, he's going to go and fight. Go fight Galactus is pretty much what this is all about.
Yeah, round 2, the superpowered version of him.
And in that, though, we have to also see him, meet and fight the Celestials.
He kills the Celestials.
He just destroys them. They're down. They're done.
He kind of is a Celestial himself, if you think about it.
We get it. It's cool, though.
Yeah.
And so you end up seeing, that. And again, when you said that, when you see that big scree going as he destroys the Celestials.
Yeah, that was the
It
other
does
one.
remind me of Daniel Warren Johnson a lot.
Oh, it's a lot like that.
Or maybe, people will laugh that Daniel Warren Johnson reminds people of Sanford Green, maybe, because it is that style. It's a crazy
I think they're
style.
contemporaries of each other. They probably,
I don't know. Daniel Warren Johnson, I don't even know how old he is. He seems to me, he seems a younger guy. I don't know. I'd have to see. But you end up, and there's a lot of Kirby crackle and stuff going on.
Oh, this is a definitely tribute to Kirby, a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. So this whole play, though, is, what does Galactus want to do? And now you end up going back and forth and talking about that, of what happens is that Galactus wants to, destroy things, and then he brings it back, and, they rinse and repeat, things like that as things reset. And that's why I said it seemed like almost like it was talking about almost like a reboot in that. But this whole play is that Galactus is going to be coming after the engine that they have. And again, that's just kind of there. It's like they have it. He's coming there. He has heralds, so they're going to have to kind of fight those off as well. And it just comes to a big fight, but really comes to what seems to be Val sacrificing herself to blow up, this whole celestial engine. And it was okay. I mean, at the end, you end up like, I don't know how I thought by the end. Like, I thought it was impressive, but once it's said over, it's like, okay, I guess, it was cool enough. It looked fantastic, but yeah, I don't know, because that's pretty much how it ends, and Doom seems to maybe live on. I don't know.
Yeah, there really is no resolution. It's very open-ended.
No, I'm telling you, I would love to sit here and tell people I thought it was the greatest thing ever, and I want to read it again and all, because I know a lot of people are going to like it. But I just kind of at the end, I shrugged my shoulders and thought I was glad that I read it. But I don't know that I would have went, and if I would have seen the price myself at the store, I wouldn't have bought it. I would have said, that looks okay. And I even have some people already, because I wanted to see what anybody else thought of it. And the people who get things early review, I asked some people. One guy, my man Sully, he loved it, but he said the art. And then the other guy that I took to, he's like, he looked through it and didn't get it. And so he was like, yeah. And, people are bad. Some people love Hickman, some people don't. I expected it to be more wordy. I expected it to be a little more convoluted with but it wasn't. It was a very quick read, but maybe we needed more. I don't know. Still like it, though. I don't want to seem too negative. I'm telling you, I'm running scared now, because I just don't know what score to give. And I think that this is going to be something that a lot of people are going to say is the best thing they've read in years. And then some people just be like, And I'm kind of like, it's okay.
I know what you
fine.
mean. Yeah, I know what you mean.
I'll even give you my score first.
Yeah, go for it.
I wanted to give it an 8, but I think I'm between a 7.5 and an 8. I could be positive. I'll give it an 8. I'll be a little more positive. I'll give it an 8.
I'm going 8.5, and I'll tell you why. That the art, I like it a lot. Right?
Yeah,
and I also
like
appreciate that he got Hickman to do the dialogue, even though there's not much dialogue. I think that gives me another half a point for going for it. Going with Hickman.
I'm an 8. I'm going to be positive because it looks great.
Oh,
it had another one. Now again, we get the review copies, so me talking about the money deal, that's just kind of a conceptual deal. That's a what if.
It is oversized.
When we go and get it, yeah, but it's like, I think it's $7-8. Usually these oversized things are like $4.99, but because Hickman's on it, and it takes a lot of effort. Sanford Green doesn't come cheap, probably too. So I get it. But in the review copy, we have another one of these pages that's turned wrong, and it's driving me nuts.
Yeah, that was annoying for me too.
Why has this suddenly been a thing at the last 2 weeks?
Well, it's one thing to turn the page, but then to turn the dialogue too is tough.
Yeah. I mean, in these books, they do have now. In that, when they send it's in the PDF form, and some players don't really go full, but just do it the normal way. It drives me nuts. But that is it. So you give it an 8.5. I give it an 8. I'm sure people will still say that we're nonsense.
I'm going to check it out when we get if I get the better copy.
Yeah.
The double
and that's
page
one of the other
and stuff.
things that gets full, high res. So I'm sure it looks incredible. And some of these pages are just breathtaking. They're really
I'm
good.
sure he's been working on this for years.
Yeah. So there it is. There's that. But we're going to move on to another number one. I wish it was a one shot. I think it's a couple shot, but we were worried.
Well, this is the second part of it, so.
Well, but it's number one.
Yeah.
So it's nonsense, because it is Amazing Spider-Man. And when we ended up and did the last issue, we were like, man, Zeb Wells, you finally did it. And then we were worried because of that Son of Staros book, but we'll see how this is. And of course, this is the Amazing Spider-Man Blood Hunt number one. like you said, it kind of continues from the Amazing Spider-Man number 49 tie-in issue, but that has to go off to its big 50th issue and Spider-Goblin nonsense. But this is written by Justina Ireland with pencils by Marcelo Ferreira, inks by Roberto Poggi, and colors by Rachel Rosenberg, VC's Corey Petit. On letters in Justine Ireland, she's more of a novelist, but she has done some things, one of which is the Son of Staros book that I mentioned already that me and you didn't really like. So going into this, there's going to be some hurdles for some people. You end up, it's not as good as what we just read. This is the idea of everybody who hates Zeb Wells, including two people talking right here. And I'm not going to say we just don't like most of his issues.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff.
There's worse. And you kind of see here, it doesn't have any sort of oomph to it. It just seems to be going through the paces because you need to have a Spider-Man book in the event. But unfortunately, the regular Spider-Man book is now hitting 50 and you got to do all that. So they end up having this. By the end, it just didn't have any part where I thought, oh my God, what's going to happen here? Oh my God, that's cool. It just kept going. It kept going and going. In fact, it got to a point where it says the end to be continued.
And
I'm like, thank
going.
God. I didn't see that it kept going. I had to read it before. I get on with you and we're talking about it. You're like, yeah, and then that backup. And it's not even a backup. It's a continuation. But I'm like, huh? And then I read it. I'm like, okay. And I said to you, like, but it is important to the deal. So really, there probably will be a bunch of people who do read it and not realize because have the end. And then you have another page. I guess it's easier in print. But if you're reading it page to page digitally, this gets us a lot of times.
The editor comes on and talks. I mean, that's
what I'm saying. Once you see that, I mean, I'm out. I don't do that. It happens on our DC podcast with Eric a lot, and I usually make fun of him. I got it here. It happened to me. And so you end up having Marcelo Ferreira. See, that's the thing. I've heard people say it different now, and it's making me run scared there, too, because it has that E and an I, and they said Ferreira. So you end up where the art's okay, but it's kind of just, it's kind of there. It's Marvel style. It's nothing that you're going to, again, there's no pages in this that I'm going to say, oh my God, you got to see that page, but you see what's going on. It does its job, right? You have Misty Knight. She's got her metal arm. All right. I hate when we've talked about it recently. What was it we were doing? And they had her in like a hoodie and you couldn't see the arm. You never cover the arm.
You got to see the arm.
Yeah, I like Misty. Pretty sexy.
Oh, she's cool.
So, so you end up in that. Yeah, the outfit's really good. But again, it's kind of just there. The art is good, not great, but at least it tells the story.
Yeah, well, like even we saw John Romita Jr.'s Lizard, and we were like, oh, that's pretty cool last issue. And then this just looks to me like Killer Croc. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's just kind of, Lizard here. Or as Misty likes to say, Lizzie, which I'll bring up now. The big play here is that Misty goes to get Spider-Man, tells Lizard to go ahead of him, or her, say, go get Spider-Man, not realizing that means, like, he might eat him, but he doesn't. And then when Misty shows up, says, hey, I need your help because we have to go get Dr. Mike and Colleen Wig. And when they say that, Dr. Mike, and what that is then, it is Morbius. Yeah, it's Dr. Michael Morbius. Don't call him Dr. Mike. That sounds so ridiculous. And in that, like, you have Spider-Man. He won't say it. Like, I was waiting for the end. Like, he's going to say it. He ain't going to say it. And he's like,
no way.
Morbius, just call him. Is it that hard? When you have these things going, if it's something that people can't pronounce or something that, I don't know. Why?
Maybe they're trying to downplay it because of that terrible movie that came out.
I was going to say the only reason, because most of the time you want the real name because, you maybe want to distance himself. It'd be funny if at the end that guy, and this JT, is it? Maybe that's Jared Toledo.
It's Jared Toledo.
It'd be funny if the guy at the end was Jared Leto. But no, they're there and it's just all thrown at you. Like I said, the pacing is weird. The change from scene to scene is odd. Like, it just feels like they're at a place, they finish it, and boom, they're just, there's no real progression in my mind of the whole story, so it kind of makes it feel like it just keeps going, and
then you got the most generic of bad guys ever are vampires a lot of times, so it's just like you're just fighting nameless, faceless vampires the whole time, with no reason
Quite frankly, here's the deal. I'm going to lay down the whole thing of this issue. by the end, and remember, everybody listening, think of what this means to you as a Marvel reader, right? You have this big thing. It's Spider-Man. This should be huge, right? So you're there, and by the end, what they're trying to do is save Colleen and Morbius from a offshoot of the Beyond Corporation of a guy that isn't even Maxine Danger. I mean, if you're going to do anything, they do show her here,
They do mention her,
which I always like to
And
call her.
Spider-Man acts like he doesn't even know who she is.
Yeah, and I like calling her Maxine Donger. That's just
Donger,
me
yeah.
from the Brooklyn Nine-Nine. But you end up where all of this is, it's a throwback to the Beyond Corporation that I don't
Nobody
know
asked for.
anybody asked for or is pining for anymore. I mean, really, the worst that could be, besides Paul, would be that all of a sudden they're like, oh, wait a minute, we're going to have to dip back into the dark web. Like, you don't need that either. Like, that's nonsense.
Yeah,
So, you
that's
know what I
just
mean?
as bad.
Like, all of a sudden they run and they're like, the only thing that could save us is sentient mailboxes.
But wasn't
like,
Dark Web just an offshoot of Beyond?
yeah,
too?
that's right. And every time it comes up, and here's my big problem with the dark web, and this has nothing to do with this issue, is that Ben Reilly has been so angry at Peter. I'm going to get Peter. I need to get my members. We see every time that Ben's not around that the Beyond Corporation is just hanging. Those are the people you need to go after. He doesn't. But yeah, nobody wants the Beyond Corporation anymore. And what it ends up to me is it's thrown in there if you need a generic thing that does tie into the run, but it's not. You're not going to be able to screw it up because what can you do with it? And so,
exactly.
again, when you have to kind of remind yourself too at the end of this, if you are really looking at this hard and heavy, it's more of a, Colleen, Wing, Morbius, and Misty Knight. But like Spider-Man isn't even the main
He's
guy.
kind of in the background doing
They
stuff.
went to get him. And again, I guess it's just like gang war. Because that's all he did there. But if you're going to do this, like, kind of come up with a better thing. I thought that Lizard and Spider-Man were going to go off and work in the lab and do things. It seems that Morbius already came up with a cure. He was working on a cure, I guess, the instant that son got blocked out. That guy was down in the lab, his secret lab. He gets taken. Colleen and Misty are involved. They get the Lizard. Like, all this just gets thrown together to just have them walk around the city to try to find them, even at a point where they go to a place at the first part where, oh my God, we got to set this up. We got this big tower. We're going to do this. We have a tracker on Dr. Mike. And they're not there. They go there and they're not there. So then they have to figure out, okay, well, what do we do next? I mean, that's a big part of the issue, is getting somewhere where nothing's really there. But they end up then in the lab and the Beyond facility. And that's where Spider-Man's like, oh, this is a Beyond facility? Oh, man. And then Misty says, oh, yeah, Auntie Monica. I mean, because she can't get out of her way of annoying me, says, must have missed a couple in her cleanup, as if anybody needed that editor's note. Like, I'm sitting there, I don't really think this really tracks on my end.
I don't remember that.
It was just at the very end. Those Bay issues, I remember me and Jason reviewing those and just like,
I'm sure I read them. They had no impact on me at all.
Again, they wouldn't, and we're done with that, or are we? Because we keep going back. But again, Spider-Man. Somehow in the offices they said we need a Spider-Man tie-in. Oh, you know what? We should get this Bay stuff, Salt Bay. I'd rather have, and I don't like that guy either. So they end up where they're going, and they end up in this facility, this Beyond facility that's underneath a church. So they think they're safe. Well, because Beyond, they're so sus. It's a fake church, so the vampires can walk in. Spider-Man is all upset about that. Then they fight what is Spider Vampire Punk guy. You see that guy?
Yeah, with the spikes on his head?
Yeah, yes. Okay.
Are those bones or is that hair? Or what is that?
I guess it's bone. I mean, it doesn't look like hair. It's like weird skin.
He's one of those guys that got an implant before he turned into a vampire?
Like, he's so pissed. He got that implant a day before he became a vampire. But then now he's happy because he's like, I'm pretty cool looking vampire.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's nothing. I bet you we'd ask them, like, what's up with that guy? And they're like, really? You're asking us about that? So, Spider-Man gets the wonkum. No part in this is Spider-Man saying, oh, man, these are real people with real feelings.
Which
like I said at the end of the last issue, and that was his big thing. He doesn't care anymore.
Misty's like shooting people and shooting the vampires.
She's rootin' tootin'. I think that Lizard maybe ate like 7 of them. Spider-Man's doing Claude Van Damme moves on them, not one care in the world, because nothing is ever coordinated. I guess you can say that it would be tough because this would have been written, around the same time as the other one, but kind of get something in here. And yes, so they're fighting, but again, they're fighting in a fake church. And nothing of the set piece is being used for anything. In fact, a lot of it is just pretty generic and empty. You just have some random fighting, and you end up where Misty eventually comes up and says, we have a backdoor exit. Done. I mean, this is what this whole issue is that you have some things going on until they just haven't, let's go. We're out of here. At one point, Misty even says, hey, give me a little time. And so even the Spider-Man dialogue in this just didn't feel like Spider-Man to me. And like you said, Lizard's odd, but then they go off to a real church to talk to this priest. And at the meantime, Spider-Man, he's like, where did Lizard go? Oh, he's outside standing guard. They just show him there, and just to tell you, everybody's outside the church with the
super soakers,
crazy super soakers with the crazy
holy water
in it. That's it.
They're just posted up outside. Like, I guess that's the ultimate weapon.
I guess. I don't know. Maybe the sun.
Yeah, well, at the beginning, she goes, I found the cure. And Spider-Man's like, what do you mean, the sun? She's like, oh, no, not the sun. The sun is the cure, though.
Yeah, that is. Or maybe they could go, get a hold of that supernova. She could come. I wonder if that would affect.
Supernova would work out perfectly.
Supernova comes up. She's like the biggest hero ever.
Dr. Ock just makes her, be the sun. Just, forces her up there.
That's the thing. Supernova's not going to be allowed to do it on her own and be a hero. It's Doc Ock that's going to force her. So you're going to get some more weapons from the Padre here, the priest. In the meantime, even where Spider-Man pulls out, a thing of that
his
danger
web shooters
and the web shooters. It's just whatever. It just is nothing. There's Maxine Danger. It's like, and through the whole thing, Spider-Man keeps saying, I don't quite trust Misty. I think Misty's not telling me anything. I think, but what? I really don't get the whole thing. There's not enough happening for it to not be telling them something. It just feels weird, but it's all the setup to then where they're trying to get to, Colleen and Morbius, and then they get attacked by more vampires. I mean, this is all it is. The vampires attack. Oh no, we're going to have to fight these off. And then it says to be continued. And then you have an editor's page. I didn't know it continued. And it does with Colleen and Morbius. This is where we just find out that Morbius, the Beyond Corporation is involved. And Colleen gets bit because they're captured. They were kidnapped.
They're in a Beyond food truck.
Yeah, they're in a Beyond food truck. They're being taken to this Beyond headquarters. There's a lot of yipping and yappins, and Morbius and Colleen open up a door, and there's a bunch of stupid vampires in the lobby, and they go, oh man, a corporation run by vampires. I just think it looks like a bunch of lazy layabouts. They're just standing there, but they seem to know. And in this, here's the problem, right? You end up meeting this guy, TJ. It is TJ, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, TJ. He says, I'm TJ, a forgettable man for an insignificant deal, but I've started my new Hemoglobin Incorporated, right? Oh my God. But when you're setting this up, isn't this just like the structure kind of, but that's the big thing. So why are you doing this? There's no reason. It's just, it's not. This is the Spider-Man book. This should be
These
bigger.
vampires, are they getting paychecks and they go to this office?
The guy's the one guy's in the back where they say, take her to the pens. The guy said, we getting double time?
Yeah, they're actually dressed up with belts on and stuff.
Oh yeah,
and
some of them have
jackets.
business suits. One guy has a hoodie.
And how come some of them have hair and some don't?
I don't know. The one guy I see there, he didn't get the memo. It's Casual Friday. What are they doing? Are they? Is there a HR vampire?
Right? Is there a break
They're
room?
there. They're like, oh, that guy touched me. He made me feel weird. We got to do something about it. Yeah. Is there a break room?
Are they able to go out back and play football on the break?
Yeah, probably not. We weren't allowed. We got shoved. Did they get the guy's like, well, actually, we've been working 4 hours. We get a 15-minute break, and then he's like, damn that vampire union! What is going? They walk into a room and they all just look. It's like the stormtroopers, the Death Star. They all look over. Some guys are cats.
Yeah.
Actually, it actually looks like they're waiting there for a open casting call for some generic vampire movie because they're all generic vampires. They're just there. Or were they beyond corporation employees and they just don't know to do something else?
And at night, did they go home to like their house and their apartment and make a commute in and out of work?
Usually it'd be a day they'd go home. They work the graveyard shift. Now they're pissed because there's no light. They can't tell. There's no clocks. They have no.
It's like
clue.
Vegas.
Yeah, look at these jerks. Yeah, really. I want to know, like the freaking vampire wife's at home bitching and moaning. You work too much, and now these two over here, they're having an affair.
Yeah, there's inter-office, inappropriate romances.
You shouldn't do that. That is, again, that's when the HR gets involved now because you're not allowed to do that.
Well, he was her boss, so that's clearly a conflict.
Well, it is, yes. And also, in a weird way, her boss, but also the HR, and now it's real trouble. This lady there. There's like maybe two ladies here. The one lady with this purple shirt. So they walk into this deal. They're in this is their building. They walk in and they have the nerve to start fighting these hardworking business people.
Yeah.
Because they just attack. And but again, very generic. There's a everything is like, there's no backgrounds at points. I think at this point, Marcelo also wasn't told it was going to continue and he had to do it quick because it does take a little dip.
I'm thinking it's a different artist because if wasn't credited on the credit page, but in the first page it says somebody named Campagna.
Okay, well,
so I think that might be that person's art.
It kind of takes.
It's definitely different.
Yeah. So after all this joking and nonsense, you end up where Colleen and Morbius are there. They fight off most of the vampires. At least the vampires pull away. So they're there. And I said to you, because Colleen's going to get bit. I said to you before we started, I'm like, Colleen would know to go back to back but she is
back to back or back against the wall.
Yeah, you have to have something where you can't be snuck up from, especially in this situation. They're in the middle of a room surrounded by vampires. They have gone back to back, Morbius and Colleen. Somehow this TJ sneaks up and bites Colleen behind, and the whole scene shifts for where Colleen is to Morbius. Morbius is now like 10 feet away. What happened? And she gets bitten.
I didn't even realize that was TJ that did that. It was, though.
That's the thing. I think that what the play here is I think it messed up. Just the ways. I think you're supposed to think it was Morbius. I think that we're supposed to be like this weird dupe of, what, Morbius, what are you doing? Just because you're with the businessman, vampire. Maybe he wants to get a job. This is the trial run. He's not in the union yet. But I think that was the play, but then it wasn't.
Well, you see this guy TJ with blood dripping out of his mouth.
That's the only problem.
Otherwise, you think it's Morbius.
Otherwise, you would think it's Morbius, but he's got blood dripping down, but he might have just had his break. But yeah, and all these said, and then he's like, take her to the pen. So
his lunch break.
So now, with the vampire rules, we got to kill poor TJ. I don't know how we'll do it. I like that TJ thinks ahead. He's like, listen, the one thing that happens with these we get blood all over our freaking clothes, and it's tough to get out. So I'm wearing all red.
At least he knows. Full red.
Actually, that's why he's running the place. That's it. It's because when he goes in, it doesn't look like he's got blood all over him because he's wearing red. These other guys with their hoodies and shit. And
has anyone ever worn a full red outfit like that?
No, it looks kind of cool. I look where the guys are when they say yes, master. I swear the one is John Constantine. Looks just like him. But
I don't know. I think those like Kings of Comedy guys or whatever. Those guys used to wear full red outfits. I don't remember, but
yeah, they did. Yeah, I can picture that too. I like those guys. So you end up where they're there, and these vampires are taking Colleen. I love the idea. Morbius really has no concern at all for Colleen. Not
at all.
Bit. I mean,
it's almost like he's working with these guys. I don't know.
He did end up getting disturbed by them coming to his lab and things like that, but still, they kind of were teamed up, and you kind of would maybe care, but he doesn't even bat an eye. And this guy says, even the dialogue is just so boring. Indeed, I apologize, as I did not want our meeting to be so fraught, but please tell me, you're at least a little impressed. I'm like, what? And then he's like, impressed? I don't know who the hell you are, dude. You're like Johnny Red. And then he's like, you wouldn't know me. I'm TJ. It's an unforgettable name for an insignificant man, a lackey of the Beyond Corporation. I'm now Theocritus, and I want Morbius to say, whoa. Did you give yourself that name? Because you can't give yourself a name.
It's against the rules, buddy.
It's like giving yourself a nickname. I want to be Long Dong Silver. It's not sticking. I might want it, but I don't think people
What was
are
that
using
nickname
it.
that George wanted to be in Seinfeld?
Yeah, I forget, but that's the thing. You can't, because you get a nickname because
You
of
didn't
like
get it.
something quirky or whatnot.
Yeah.
You can't just make up a name. I'm going to be Stud Muffin. So this guy's like, I'm now Theocritus. I am telling you, what I need is almost like a Stripes, where it's like he goes to this and it's like, listen, I'm now Theocritus. Okay, pipe down, TJ. Like, just keep using TJ to annoy him. But he says, and I have how do you start up a corporation when you have a zombie or I almost said Dracula's apocalypse. You have a vampire apocalypse. The things are going, and somehow this guy has decided he's making a business, which in the thing he's saying, I think he's just going to collect blood.
Yeah, hemoglobin.
And sell it, right? He's just going to sell it to other vampires. I don't know. I think, I guess you
got to. It's always
a
the thing when vampires take over and they actually get control. They have to kind of produce.
Well, you
blood
need a
and
farm and stuff like that.
Farm.
Like what he's doing.
So you got to keep some livestock.
He's the only one of these jerks who's watched a vampire movie. But even then, like, how is he starting this up? Like, we need a side book.
Yeah, I get lost in the motivation. What's the intention? What's his reason?
I want to see him when he was there. Like, and this has just happened. Like, where did he got a loan? He's there at the vampire bank.
But does he want to buy a yacht and a bigger house?
The vampire bank is a blood bank.
Blood bank.
You end up, but yeah. So
to go on a nice vacation. What's his motivation?
How does he get all these? Like, is he paying them? Did he have like an open ad for like, hey, everybody, we're starting this business?
Or is he just control them because they call him master? So
they said that. I just think maybe they say that because of that suit. He looks. I think what it is they were wandering around. He shows up. He looks fancy, and he just told him, "I'm the boss." And they're like, "Okay."
You see that head of hair he has too? It's nice.
Yeah. Look at. I keep looking at that Nosferatu looking. Two jerks. These guys look like twins. The guy that was in the riot gear and the guy in the hoodie. Those guys are the worst. They are not. They can't be the face of the corporation. But of course, they all look like jerks. And Theocritus, and he looks all fancy. And I love it. It's like, you fell in love with TJ in Hallows Eve, Many. No, I didn't. So I don't know who that is. That was not a editor's note for me. And somehow I hate him more now because it just doesn't. It's such, and we were joking around with the idea, but if you do think of this, it's ridiculous. And it's a Spider-Man book. And he's just kind of looking, it's gang war again, where Spider-Man's doing nothing but react to what other people are doing or sending him to do. Bullcrap is what I say, but what would you give this? 5.5. I'm giving it a 5. It's just generic. Now we're laughing about the stupid stuff, but there's nothing in this that I think people are going to get mad about. There's nothing that you're going to be like, oh my God, it's so bad, because we've had issues, even Zeb Wells issues.
Yeah,
or, stuff like, say, Mark Russell, right? I'll just throw his name out there. Cody Ziegler. But you end up like, this doesn't get me mad except for the fact that it's a Spider-Man book in an event and it's nothing. That's why, again, it's because of what's happening in the ASM, but I think it's also just like, well, we'll push this aside. I'm surprised that I guess you have to have a Spider-Man tie-in like this, though.
Well, Morbius, you got to get him in. I mean, he's one of the original vampires.
Yeah, and even then, he's coming up with a cure. And the thing is, too, where he does say at the end, we didn't even say it, TJ, he says he wants Morbius because everybody seems to know that Morbius has this cure anyway, but says, I want to finish that cure with you. Does he want to finish it so he can destroy it? Or does he want to not be a vampire? I don't know. Or is that what he's doing? Is that what he's going to market? Or he figures that some people would not want to be vampires. Maybe this guy will end up being the hero. He'll save us all. In the meantime, Colleen could be dead. She could be a vampire. I don't know, because she just gets carried away. Look at that one guy, too. I think HR should be nice thing, the way he's grabbing her there.
Yeah, he's copping a feel.
Yeah, I'm telling you. It's like, again, it looks like she is now at Woodstock 99.
It's like the mosh
She passed out. She passed out, and now bad shit. Get Carson Daly. Call him up. They were looking for his ass. I don't even care about cursing anymore. There we are. But we're done with our books. We were, just to let everybody know, we were going to do the Venom book, but we ran out of time. I didn't have enough time to read it. But if anybody has read it, let us know how it is you read it.
Yeah, I liked it enough. Yeah, it would have been taken a long time to explain it.
Yeah,
it was pretty good.
So there we go. We had a lot of fun with this one, though. I don't even know why.
This was harmless. I mean, that's what it is.
But that's not
offensive.
That's the one thing that gets me mad, though, as a little thing. It's harmless, but that shouldn't be what the Spider-Man.
No, I don't think it should be either.
You know what I mean? Like, if you end up having, I don't know, what was that one? Jack the Ripper. That one that's coming out next week, I believe. I mean, seriously, that can be harmless. Probably is going to be
Union Jack the Ripper.
Union Jack the Ripper. Whatever. We have to do that one. It sounds so ridiculous. But that's.
I mean, this should have been, what are they called? The Daughters of the Dragon?
That's what I'm saying. That's what it should
Blood
be.
Hunt.
That's all
Daughters
it is.
of the Dragon.
And, even in that Bay stuff, you'd have those Bay issues, so you'd have this stuff in it, in that side bit. And I don't mind. I like Colleen and I like Misty, but
just throw Spider-Man on the cover. He's just a guest.
But that's what I'm saying. But then you have to have somebody else do you have to have a Spider-Man, tie-in. But this felt weird. This felt like an aside. Oh, by the way, throw Spider-Man into your story.
Do we really need to celebrate issue number 50? Who cares? It's like, how many issue 50 Spider-Mans are there?
Yeah,
There's got to be 50 of them.
You'll see. It'll sell. That book still sells.
I'm sure it will.
I just don't get it. And Spider-Goblin.
Yeah.
Just imagine, if the rumor came out that Paul was going to die in issue 50, that thing would sell 5 times as much.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It'd be the great. It's like the anti-first appearance. People would just want to celebrate that. Wouldn't it be great that becomes the biggest collector because it's Paul and he's done? And years from now, it's celebrated as the end of the dark times of Paul. It'd be so great. I want to, when this happens, whoever does it, grab him by that man bun and twirl him around for a while and then throw him that guy. And he'd still start complaining. My daddy was mean to me. And then they'd feel bad. Or have Mary Jane use that jackpot stupid spinner and somehow it does something like she gets spikes and suddenly she impales him. And now she hides the body because she doesn't want to be up for murder.
Isn't Paul, wasn't he from a different world? Or
yeah, he was
had
from
a weird
a different dimension.
Father or something?
The deal. The father was what's his name that was continued from Zeb Wells' run back in the day. So it was just that continuation. Just imagine the idea that you're like, man, I created this character. I created Paul. You get punched. That's what they're at a convention later, years from now. Who did you create? I created Paul. Boom, right in the face. Right in the kisser. I get it. But that's it. That's it for me and you. We'll go off to me and Jason talking about the Ultimate X-Men. And to finish it all off, I'm here with my man Jason. What up, Jason?
Hey, Jim. Good to be back in the Ultimate Universe.
In the Ultimate Universe, yes. And it's the Ultimate X-Men that we're going through. I don't know why. I don't think it was delayed. It just felt like it. It felt like a while from, just maybe because we're looking forward to it. I don't know. But do you think people are going to like this? Because I think there's going to be problems here.
Yeah, my scores are, if I would to graph my scores, I just came out of teaching math, so I'm in graphing kind of mode. It would not be going in a positive direction, unfortunately.
No, mine looks like a ski slope, I believe. That's what they say in class. But here it is, Ultimate X-Men number 3. It is written with art by Peach Momoko, script adaptation by Zach Davison, letters by VC's Travis Lanham. And we have been telling people they should give this a try. Me and you are both manga fans, so it's been hitting kind of deal. You get to a point, though, you need more. And that's where I am here. It really did end up when I got finished. First off, boy, people who are on the fence, people who are trying to stay, they're gone. I think that they might drop it. I'm still interested, but boy, it needs to do something, right?
It's an oddly structured book. We start off in one flashback, then we come to present day, then we go to a second flashback. It's just the way it's put together, and the dialogue is kind of clumsy. There is a scene there that is the origin of the powers of May Storm, so I think there's going to be some people excited to see that. I think that's the scene that's really going to get people's attention. That's not the part I'm most interested in. I'm still, there's some bits I'm fine to be curious about, some other characters, but it doesn't feel like a whole month's worth of story I just got.
Now, and I know that, May, she has the deal in that flashback with her powers, but is it odd that she looks almost exactly Sicko? I think people are going to be confused. I think that some people would be confused in that when she gets those. But boy, her dad is just not a good guy. And it ties into what we think might be the Phantom King. There's a lot going on. But like you said, you start out And it's, they're doing this little deal, like a Ouija board type deal in this, and, doing some things. And it almost might even be the idea of like, am I going to be married and rich? Oh my God, it's moving,
a strange scene because they don't tell us right away we're even in a flashback. We see Hisako and this other girl, I think her name is Sayaka, and Glasses, the guy who we think is connected to the shadow. The guy we saw wearing something on his head that seemed almost like a homemade Japanese paper charm cerebro last time.
Yeah.
And he's hanging out there doing this. He's not saying a word. They're doing this little Ouija board thing with the Japanese 10 yen coin. And they're having a little fun. Nothing too sinister going on. But at the end, there's this weird bit of dialogue where the girls talk to each other and say, "Hey, who is that guy anyway? We just spent all this time with him playing this game, and neither of them know who he is." Which it was an odd way of getting that across. I mean, if we saw the beginning how this whole little interaction started, but just to have that kind of jammed in the dialogue, it really set me up to feel like, all the dialogue and the way the scenes are put together just feel kind of awkward and clumsy.
They find very awkward, and it feels like in scenes. I mean, you'll have it with that guy. He's just kind of hovering. I mean, at one point, he kind of walks over and they don't and then you'll get it again with May's dad, who just, the people in these scenes seem to be like sleepwalking through. Like, and I'm not even talking about like, sometimes I'll make fun of the idea that, hey, the character doesn't have much to do. I'm talking like they're walking around and really like in slow motion.
Not reacting
it's really
to
odd.
things they should react to.
Yeah, it's very odd. It's very odd.
I mean, the dad is also wearing glasses. Are we supposed to be seeing a connection between her dad and this
like
creepy
this guy's
magic guy?
I don't know, because he seems to be next door. It's very odd, because then 2 years later we do it. That's 2 years ago. Then we do a jump,
so
and
then we see that 2 years later. This was back in middle school, and I guess Glasses went to middle school with them, and as far as we know, he's not going to high school with them now. So that's because we knew last time he knew who Hisako was. He recognized her from seeing through whatever shadow vision, cerebral vision he was watching. So recognized the girl.
Yeah, he recognized her, and so 2 years later, and she finds the coin, and it's just weird little things. I mean, it's one of those things where, again, I'll say in a manga, there's a quirkiness to some things where, you can go through an issue or a chapter where, oh man, the only thing that happened was the one girl brushed her hand against the guy. Oh my God, and blush, but you got to do more here. This is an X-Men book. This is far from an X-Men book, and that's where people are going to be upset. I said that I thought at some point this and Black Panther, maybe even the last issue of Ultimate Spider-Man, they're in a holding pattern, maybe to get to the Ultimates, because when the Ultimates come, now the powers hit, you're going to have a team, you're going to have, but I don't know, you can't do that though. You need to do something, and we kept grabbing on, and I'll even give a shout out to Matt. Matt, you'll love this. He claimed that it seemed like while we were reviewing the book, we were apologizing for liking it, because we kept saying that, but I told him it's because we're trying to convince people to try to read it, because it is something that isn't like way in everybody's face. Right. It's something that might end up, you might like it if you like some things.
There are some cool aspects to this that people don't often get to see in Marvel Comics, and I would love to see Marvel do something kind of different and good. But there are things that are being put in the way, preventing people from getting to the good bits that are just like stumbling blocks.
And so how I was telling them, it's like, I understand people are going to get upset. We're trying to not, like, almost like we're trying to trick people. Listen, don't get upset at us, but maybe you'll check it out. I can't recommend this issue. I can't. The idea of, even if you've been reading it, I think most people by the end of this is just going to say, like, nothing really happened. And boy, we're getting further away. That first issue, like, felt like, okay, where people thought it was, I don't like the art. We're not getting Wolverine. We were getting some things that seemed like the development at the beginning of the mutants, at least in here. Mm-hmm. We're kind of getting away from that, even though we see a flashback with May, but I just don't think that's enough. I think that some people like
cool
it.
Things. We get an idea that we hear the word mutant for the first time. That felt big at the very end, so that felt very, very big.
It's so funny. People are going to be like, if that's what you think, but it does in this book. It does, especially in a world where you don't have any recognized mutants or X-Men. So you keep going. I like that. I guess, is that her phone that she has like the cracked screen like
Yes.
Liefeld.
So
Pretty funny.
we're in the current day here, and they're in a gym class, and this felt actually pretty realistic. I remember gym class was always usually some girls hanging around the edges trying to avoid participating, and we see that Mae Storm has been looking up information on the internet. Always a bad idea. And last time, the Shadow had influenced or forced 3 of these school bullies who had been picking on Tsubasa, Hisako's friend from middle school. Those bullies are now dead. They hung themselves, or they were hung. Hard to say what happened. So, and her screen here is cracked, which is kind of interesting. We get a close up of it later on in the flashback. So earlier on, in a way, it wasn't cracked, and and that's shown to us, and it seems to be something notable, important.
I think it's just that when she freaks out here and gets her power, she cracks the screen herself. Maybe that just
Perhaps,
is the case, or they're just showing that she's not allowed to get a new phone because they have a contract, and that ends up upping the. I know how that is with my kids, but yeah, so they end up. Her parents are even like, "You got to go meet this guy next door, right?" And and it's the guy that's glasses. And it's very odd. I mean, it ends up where at least it looks like that. I mean, it certainly does. The deal,
so we get the idea that he's like a recluse. We don't know if there's any family living there with him. I guess what's the Japanese? Hikikomori is a thing. Like somebody with like a social anxiety won't go outside. Seems to have that deal going on. And when she goes over there, she runs into this cat. And this cat has a collar with these, again, I'm pretty sure they're just the paper charms, little magical charms all around it. And the dialogue later on says that she thinks he's been painted. I don't know if I see that in the low-res art we had here.
You kind of see the kind of like almost like an X and a couple of eyes on the back. When he grabs it by the back, it looks like maybe like a marker or paint on that. But
so this is like her in to talk to this recluse guy. And also that's why he'll open the friggin' door, because he wants his cat back. And he doesn't seem to be really good with cats. The cat doesn't seem to like him at all. And when he opens the door, he's still got the bucket on his head with these crazy charms hanging off it. Looks like the worst like Gilligan hat, or the worst like Australian hat ever. With those corks hanging off.
Oh yeah.
It looks creepy. He reaches out with one big paw to grab the cat, and the cat does not like him at all, and claws the hell out of Mae Storm's arm.
Yeah, and it does have a bit of reaction, but again, with the art, and then she ends up going back, and her parents are arguing. She's sleeping. You get this crazy deal where some smoke and electricity is coming off that cut.
Yes,
so
the shadow transferred to her via the cat is what's even when the claw hits her, you can see it's way more wounded than the little cat scratch should be, and there's like that black smoke rising from her arm. So this is when something creepy happened. I don't know. Is this connected to her having a mutant power? Is this unconnected?
I don't
Does
know.
It trigger her?
Seems
her
like
gene?
it's connected. It seems
it's
like
so
this could be the trigger.
It's the same
I know,
day.
And it's weird again because people are going to want to have just mutant power. You have the mutant gene, whatnot. But this seems like these things are triggered by talisman. They're triggered by whatever, because the cat being painted and having the charms on, I think, is what kind of transfers the deal.
Glasses
but we don't
is doing
know.
something weird with this cat. Does he know about spirits? Does he know about mutant genes? I don't know. He's the most intriguing character to me. I want to know who this creepy dude is.
He has he's kind of put into play where you could even say in a weird roundabout way that Hisako's power kind of came from something he might have been doing too. That might be the idea, like you were saying, where it does look like he's, say, the Shadow King of this deal. Maybe he is more of a Xavier type character because he's creating these. But if he ends up being Xavier, people are going to lose it. I mean, people are going to be like, I do not want that creepy guy as that. So we'll have to see how it goes. But it is odd that kind of seemed like a coincidence that led to
we're clearly going to get more out of him. We don't know his character at all yet, except for these little glimpses that really have my attention. I'm really curious about this kid, and we're going to have his. He's going to have to get his own spotlight issue, basically, at some point. Something illuminating what the hell happened to him, what he's doing with his funny hat. And that's really what I want to come back and find out about.
Yeah, well, what he should be doing with the funny hat is taking it off. But when he's doing this
at least
again,
when he opens the door. I mean, come on, dude.
And he looks creepy. I mean, there's no answer to it, but this could be that twist of he's actually helping them, that he's actually doing something. I don't know. Maybe that could be interesting if we do get to that. But in this thing, and this is a kind of deal where Hezekiah said, "Hey, May, how'd you get your powers?" And she's like, "Yeah, I kind of had them with, not really wanting to talk about it because she's thinking back, and it kind of leads to her saying, well, my dad slapped me right across the face." I don't think she wants to say it. But the only thing, it's a flashback that she's thinking. So I can go with the idea that things are a little slow. Things like she's just thinking of general things. The dad, who she must think is, completely a jerk. Like he does seem like he's barely connected into the scene. But that might be because she's thinking this and it's, I don't know. It's weird.
Her parents are her parents are both not great people, it seems. So they fight all the time. The mom's really passive aggressive. And the dad seems just totally checked out, not even answering. He's just reading his newspaper. He's being accused of having an affair. And he's like, oh, look what Marmaduke is up to today. He's not there.
Yeah, and she's like, I told you I don't like Marmaduke. Stop it. Like, I like Wizard of Id. But you end up where this is going on, and even like the dad seems like a zombie, because the mom's like, oh, he's so worthless, and he's just like bloody.
I can buy that. What I'm seeing here is they've had this fight 1,000 times before, and he is just checked out. I'm okay with that being his characterization. Not that I'm okay with it, but that makes reality kind of sense.
It's just
to me.
He's so weird, and except for the slap, it almost feels like. I don't know, that maybe Peach Momoko was playing the idea at one point, but I think you're right. But it almost felt to me like this is the personification of 1,000 fights. So, the dad rarely reacts, you have this, and she's thinking back. But when you get
this time, Storm speaks up and kind of, says, why don't you just leave him? And that's when he just, again, silently, kind of methodically, just grabs her hand, the hand that just got wounded, and then wails her across the face. And that's what triggers her first, blast of mutant powers. And this is a really cool.
It's the best thing we've seen so far, I think.
For sure.
And even people who don't like the art, I think. But here, again, she does this. The dad is just...
Yes, him not reacting to this. He has not seen this 1,000 times before. He's had his wife call him, a man whore 1,000 times before.
100
for sure.
A million times, right?
But,
And so,
but this has got to be new. How can you not react to your daughter creating a literal, thunderstorm inside your kitchen?
Yep. As his drink is flying out, his glass is full of... He's just sitting there. It's so weird. Like, again...
And even afterwards... All he says is he kind of puts his glasses back on and very quietly, calmly tells her to GTF out of his house. Like, oh, you got to leave now. You're a punk. No mention of, this crazy, amazing, magical thing he just witnessed.
I get this. It's a weird play. I get this weird idea that she's saying that, like, in her mind or saying whatever, that it's like, this is how it's story-wise that it's being portrayed of, like, her, like, well, then my dad, like, he smacked me. What did he do then? He told me I had to leave. You know what I mean? It's like weird.
She's living now.
I don't know.
Is she and her mother living somewhere? Is she living on her own? She doesn't. We haven't seen anything to let us feel like she was, abandoned or scrounging out life somehow without support. And as far as I know, I think most high schools in Japan are private. Like you have to pay tuition. I could be wrong on that. I don't know, but she seems well enough cared for financially. I mean, her phone's cracked, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, what are you going to do when you freak out and have a storm in your kitchen? I actually, in that, like, the weird, I was going to mention it when we saw the kid, the whatever, Shadow King, whatever it'll be, that he seems like he's by himself, but maybe you've read a million mangas where the kids are living by themselves. This does happen a lot.
Have that,
yeah, it happens so much.
It's like the fairy tales where the kids always on their own, just so the story can happen.
Yeah, so because you don't have to be bogged down with nonsense, so you have that. So that didn't throw me off. But when he said get out, like, did the mom, like, I want to know more of that. And then you do, like, again, there's some things I like about this, but overall, none of them involve X-Men, except that, you do get the power surge there, but I don't think that's going to be enough. But when she gets hit by the dodgeball...
That's a pretty common way in an X-Men comic of showing powers revealed. Some stressful incident when you're an adolescent, maybe often with your parents pissing you off, and then boom, it just happens. So it's not like that's a new idea.
Hisako was getting hit by a car. Like, it does. Right. It ends up, and she was so angry. But again, even in that flashback, like, boy, like, I haven't seen anybody pull back that far since Ike Turner. Like, he ends up, the guy goes back like 80 feet, and she doesn't react. Like, she could run. It was a weird play of, again, I think it's of the mind. And, yeah, so by the end, she's telling this, I guess, or even thinking, and then she gets hit by a dodgeball. It actually looks so much to me like a Charlie Brown scene.
That was pretty funny, yeah.
It made me laugh. It made me laugh so much. And she drops her phone.
It is a funny way of just getting us out of the flashback. Is just, she literally, she's thinking about this, and she gets hit in the head by a kickball, dodgeball, something like that.
And now things get wacky again. I mean, not that they weren't before, but you end up having the other girls hanging around.
We get some more characters here.
Yeah. This Nico, right?
Yeah, so Nico Minoru, which is the name of a character in the main 616. She was on the Runaways. She's that sorceress character who has the staff of one. Is that what it's called? It's the staff where she can make any spell happen, but only once.
Yeah, and so she's in. So are people going to get excited about that? Then you just have weird side characters too. It just ends up being goofy, right?
There's like somebody's squatting like a catcher, and then another like an umpire, maybe. So we've got a girl with bunny ears. I don't think literal bunny ears. I don't think like a cat girl. I think a hat.
It's like Louise in Bob's Burgers. She has a hoodie like that. It looks exactly like that.
And the other one has this eye patch with an X on it. We've seen X's pop up in odd places. Even on the back of May Storm's phone, there's an X like on her case. Her hairpins make X's. So X's are working into the background here.
So this girl reminds me of like Captain Harlock. But I'm telling you right now, that patch, the eye patch girl with the X, I don't know why. I think she might be my favorite character already. She hasn't said a word.
Hasn't said a word.
And I'm like, I like that look. I think it's cool. I like that eye patch. Like any kid who just decides to wear, and it doesn't look like a cool pirate eye patch. It looks like a medical thing that they put on.
Lazy eye, right.
Yeah, that's like pretty cool. I like that. But again, you just have this back and forth. Hey, Nico, why are you always doing that? And she's saying, I'm having problems now because it's my time of month. I'm like, what are we doing here? And then they, you can't just sit outside of the group here and look at your phone. You got to get involved. There's a lot of weird. And then at the end, I'm like, I don't know what's happening by the end.
Yeah, because Hisako explains to May, oh, that's Nico Minoru, and then just adds on some exposition. She's weird. She's got an aura. Her parents are psychics. There you go. Just right there in the dialogue.
That's cool.
And then at the end, Nico pulls out from I don't know where this magnifying glass, which looks a whole lot like the staff of one. The staff has a circle at top, so maybe she can just make it appear the way the staff does. And she looks at Hisako and May and says, interesting, you two are mutants too.
Also, that's.
So we got the M word, we got mutants, and two, so does she mean that she herself is a mutant? Or that she knows other mutants? Because Nico in the 616, I don't think is a mutant. I think she's just a human sorceress.
Again, it's a weird play of like what they're claiming because of the way with the talismans and the magic and things like that. So I don't know, but she may, like you said, she may actually be saying, oh, she has powers, her parents are psychic, and she also has eye patch over here that might be, gathering them up. I don't know.
I was wondering if maybe the mutant thing in this universe isn't connected to genes because we're saying, the magic, but then on the cover, the logo of Ultimate X-Men is a U with a DNA double helix in it. So that would be an odd play if it's not genetic the way it is in the 616.
Yeah, and she may just be, Nico may just be a sorceress in the deal, but like I said, maybe the two kids. All I can think of then is either she or the other two characters, Louise from Bob's Burgers and Eye Patch. Like maybe they're something, they're mutants and she's kind of good. But the thing when she pulls this out and looks, it's kind of a cool move. It's like a classy old school move. Like she does that. But that maybe, you don't know. Is she against that? Is she down with it?
It's like
Can
Detective
you imagine
Conan
that?
all of a sudden.
Yeah, I'm telling you, like all of a sudden you're like, so what do you think of this? And we're on a screen. I pull out a magnifying glass. I think it's an 8. Like that'd be pretty fancy. But in the meantime, it looks okay. It's just a weird issue. Again, while we're reading it, I always do. And like Matt said, I'm not, apologizing. Mm-hmm. I'm worried that people will just give up.
Well,
and I thought there was
pluses
something.
and minuses. It's got these cool ideas. Now, I want to know more about Nico. I want to know more about guy with the bucket on his head. I want to know how mutants work in this situation. That one cool double spread page is really nice, but just like the way it's put together. We mentioned before that Peach Momoko she's an artist. That's what she does. She draws, she watercolors, she does these cool looking covers. She's not known for being a writist, as you say. And I think some of that lack of experience may be showing here, just the way the scenes run together, the way the dialogue is put into mouth at awkward times. It's clunky is the word, for sure.
Yeah. And I just want to mention that some people are probably laughing when you said people are against her art. I like it. I think it's a different style. You kind of, again, there's people who love Riley Rossimo. I can't get that. Mm-hmm. So, I'm allowed to like something. But you end up at the end, like, I think that the way I can explain it here, if you haven't liked it for whatever reasons, and I'm saying specific reasons, you've read it and said, I don't like it because of the art, or I don't like it because pacing. This issue is not going to change your mind. I don't think it's going to change anybody's mind. I think that a lot of people are going to say, me and you like it. I'm still reading it. I'm starting to worry now. I'm starting to get worried that, boy, because if everybody bails but me and you, there's no book. And I kind of hope that it gets its, gets going. And it doesn't seem to have that. And it seems to be drifting away, even though, like you said, it's weird. It
doesn't feel like there's an arc going on. It doesn't feel like it's leading up to anything. Yeah, it's a collection of scenes just kind of shoved together. And there's interesting bits in the scenes, but there's no sense of, we're really going there. I really want to see what happens. You do the fireworks factory thing. You want to get to the fireworks factory?
Yeah, you want to. Yeah.
I don't even know if we're going to a fireworks factory.
I don't either.
We're going to the zoo. We're going to the dairy. I don't know where we're going.
It might be the weekend. We're off. We don't have to go. It's weird. Like you said, there's no direction going for. So maybe, and you said it about it's so funny. We don't even know his name. Glasses. Maybe this would have been better served at this point to just do one shots of the different characters to get towards, and you kind of did, but you don't. Because maybe that would have been like, hey, let's get these things. Here's Glasses. Here's this. Here's May. Here's Izuko. And then when we get to when, like I said, I thought when the whole Ultimates comes out and the world is now powering up and then get to an ongoing story with the characters you already developed. I don't know. I do like Izuko. I do like May. I hate Glasses, but it's just because we don't know him and he looks creepy and I like that eye patch. But and I'll tell you, even by the end, I think Nico's kind of cool. But overall, the story's just not there, and it's not an X-Men book still, and we're starting to get to, like, how many issues are we going to go until it starts feeling?
An X-Men book in that classic way, because we're going to get some very mainstream X-Men books coming in the next couple months. So I'm really cool with Ultimate X-Men being something really different. And there was there's some cool things here, but there's some stuff getting in the way of me enjoying it as much as I really want.
Yeah, that's clunky. What would you give it?
I'm at a 6 out of 10. The interesting
I'm a 6
things,
as well.
The creepy villain guy who may or may not be a villain, this mention of the mutants at the end, the cool double page spread, and I'm still enjoying the art. I really want to see this once we get the full resolution comes out. I'm definitely going to pick that up because I want to see, especially that scene with the weird cat, I want to see what that looks like, as it's meant to be seen. And I hope next time we really start to find out some things that make me go, okay, I see kind of where we're headed, and I see why I should be excited to pick this book up every month.
And then at the end, you have the lexicon that you go and you see some Japanese things and stuff like that.
Yeah,
which
it talks
I think
about that Ouija board game. It's fine.
I don't get gaga on it, but what I do like is it's kind of this book's version of the data pages, and it makes me giggle every time. I'm like, it's like the traditional Japanese explanation data pages. I'm like, all right.
They put it right at the end. It's just some extra local color if you want to read it. If you don't want to read it, it's not going to, hurt how you understand the book.
It's for whatever trinkets and things, but it's cool. But yeah, I'm the same with you, a 6, and our scores are going down. So hopefully it gets up, and I'd love to hear like people who. I know that people immediately, I'm not going to read it. That's fine. If you're not reading it, you're not reading it. But I'd like to hear people who, like, maybe they're getting more excited about it. Or some people are like, I'm done. I just want to hear the general
I think there's going to be some May Storm fans on the web. I know people, all those Storm fans who are really gaga over Storm all the time, I think some of them are going to be excited to see this new version of their favorite character.
And in the whole play, any little girl in like a manga setting like that has white hair, I always think it's cool. That's like the coolest thing. And I'm looking at next issue.
We didn't mention when her powers manifested. You see the color drain out of her hair and her eyes. And that was a neat moment. That was cool.
Yeah, it was. I'm looking, and even next issue, you see a couple more characters there. And I really actually, looking at the next cover, Nico is going around like she's Detective Conan. And it looks cool. I mean, that cover looks really, really like, let's get to that
looks
fun.
Action-packed. We have Hisako with her armor on, looking like she's going to kick some ass. We see Eye Patch there in the background. I want to see what she's up to.
That's what I'm saying. There's Eye Patch. You got it all.
You see Storm with the wind all around her, like she's carrying them through the air. And then there's, I don't know who the young lady is.
Yeah, I don't know either. She looks cool, though, too. And you have, looks like maybe a calendar with a big X on it. Like, you keep doing that X thing.
Yeah.
But
it looks like some papers got graded in school.
I think that's what we need, is to get it. Yeah, we're not going to get a traditional team, you said. We're going to get that other places. But we need this to kind of come together and have some fun. And I said, right, it could end up feeling a lot like a Runaways book. It could end up feeling a lot like a young, mutant deal, new, deal. I'm trying to think of what I'm trying to say, but like a Runaways book.
Some other,
And I think that the Runaways actually works out really well, especially with the idea that May, she might be on the streets. We don't know all this stuff going down. Like, that could be a cool play, even though that's not like X, but that I did love the Runaways. So that's kind of a cool play. And then discovering maybe some people around them, because remember, there's also that control of the world and the repression of these superheroes. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, this book is not tied at all into the larger new Ultimate Universe, and I'm okay with it being its own thing for a while. I'm okay with that happening in the background, but I want to see why I'm being told this story. I want to see something big happening. Okay, now I see why I should care about this particular set of people.
And yeah, little, girls in high school, middle school, they're not going to be involved in world politics anyway. So I think it works out. So we'll see. But that's that. I will go off now and let everybody know what we'll talk about next week. But thanks for joining me, Jason.
Thank you, Jim.
And I'm going to go off to that right now. And that is it for this week's show. I'm here with my man, Matt, again, after talking with Jason about the X-Men, but this is what we're going to be talking about next week. And me and you were debating on what we were going to talk about. Mm-hmm. This third or fourth book, we couldn't figure out exactly, but we'll see. We'll give some options and we'll see. But we're going to do Amazing Spider-Man number 50. It's oversized. We both of us kind of ended up deciding we'll probably deal mainly with the main story from Zeb Wells. There's also a Marv Wolfman story. There's some other things. I'm sure that we'll read them and maybe be able to tell people, hey, this was okay, check it out. But we're more concerned.
Yeah, I'm sure the main story is probably oversized anyway, too.
Yeah, so. I'm sure that'll be 30-some pages. And then you'll tag on, 10, 15 of these other 2 stories. I think that there might be even more than just 3 stories. It is a $9.99 book. So usually those are about 80 total, if not a little more. We'll see. Maybe they're just going to rail people in. Again, I said it about the Daredevil deal. It is kind of it's expected, but it's kind of a crap move if you're just reading the regular run. And even if you're like, I'm collecting it, I'm doing this, I'm not really enjoying it, now you have to pay $10 to get some extra stuff.
That is a lot when you have a certain budget for comics, and all of a sudden it's blown out.
All of a sudden, what are you going to cut out or whatever? If it was just the regular issue, and then I understand that they do this, but you could have a special issue, Amazing Spider-Man special number 1 or whatever to do this other stuff. They never do. We also have a big one, Blood Hunt number 2. See what that goes. What I'm interested the most about this is to see how many or how much of the tie-ins do we then get reiterated in this, and see that kind of shows you or will show you what is important, or also if you have to even read the tie-ins, because you told me that the Strange Academy had a huge thing.
I think it is at least, yeah.
And I don't have, nobody ended. Are you now telling me that's the most important issue of the
I think it's the most important issue.
I end up where I didn't hear anybody talking about it, but you did say that there's a big thing with the Darkhold that's become a boy that's hanging out in Strange Academy, which is cool. That's pretty cool. We also will definitely be talking about Ultimate Black Panther. People have been complaining about, and we even talked about it this week with the Ultimate X-Men, that it's not progressing quick enough. I said that I think there's something to do with the Ultimates needing to come out and get the superheroes out and about. We'll see. Remember, at the end of the Ultimate Black Panther #3, we had that moon deal underneath, and we'll see what that means and if it progresses any more from there. And then we have a 4th slot, and we have a couple things. We have Superior Spider-Man #7. That's the penultimate issue, and it seems like that series has completely just...
It's a 4th slot for Dan's slot.
Yeah, really. And if we do that, but it does seem like that doesn't really matter anymore. It ends up where it's kind of... It's done. And they're just going to wrap up this. I'll read it because Supernova, see what happens with her. But I don't know. We'll see. And the other options to talk about, and I'm talking about on the show, would be Ghost Rider. Final Vengeance #3. We're not loving that either. You end up where you have the Hood in Chi-Town, fighting people.
It's pretty bad.
See. Or we have that one other one, the Spectacular Spider-Man #3, which me and you have not liked at all. People have liked it, so we might want to just let them enjoy what they enjoy. But it's one of those things like that. It's just like that Deadpool. I want to be around so when people finally realize how bad it is, that we can laugh. But I can still do that personally. But I'd like to kind of go, or maybe in a positive way, it gets better.
It's possible. It can only get better.
Well, remember the deal and the whole idea of who's involved, and we're like, Arcade Shadow is on the cover, #1. Then you also end up having this, Peter going on a date with Gwen Stacy. It's just going to be more of these dream scenarios that,
dreams.
People kissing in Italy. A guy, remember that first issue, the guy doing his opera? And that guy had his dream come true. And that other guy who is got Kenny's lady. Who ends up yelling about
we talked about both issues then, right?
Yeah.
This would be
So the thing is, it is kind of funny to rail on it a bit. I mean, it's such a weird book, but we'll see what we do. We'll pick one of those. It does go from kind of Superior Spider-Man doesn't mean much. It's canceled. It's finishing, I guess, next issue. Then you get the Ghost Rider book that seems like that's like dark, and then you get just completely goofy, Spectacular Spider-Man, so we'll figure it out.
And then there's Union Jack the Ripper, too.
Union Jack the Ripper that I may try to get my man Mark to do it with me. Me and you won't be doing Union Jack the Ripper. We have a bunch of other things. Or we could do Union Jack the Ripper. I don't know. We'll figure it out, but we'll have some things to talk about. So thanks, everybody, for listening, and we will talk to you all next week.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.